Hi there. This is going to be a review of session 1 of Vaesen, new campaign I'm starting. I had 3 players last night for the session. They were playing Nikolas Conradson. That was played by my friend Chris. He was playing an occultist. I had Hugo Nielsen, who was played by my friend Steve, who was playing a writer archetype. And my friend Matt was playing Gorun Auberge, who was a retired military and police officer. Vaesen, if you're not familiar with it, it's a game by Free League, and it is set in mythic Scandinavia, the mythic North, as you can see on the corner of the map there. And it deals with Nordic / Scandinavian folklore and is a horror role-playing game. The campaign session started out, none of the characters knew each other. They'd all received a letter telling them to come to the city of Uppsala and to this place called Castle Gillenkreutz, and their questions would be answered. And the questions being, sorry, my cat is going nuts. Get down. The question is all the characters have what is known in the game as the sight, and the sight is it gives them the ability to actually see Vaesen. Vaesen to normal people are invisible. You can't see them. Sometimes they appear as something else. If you ever watched the show The Grimm, it's an older show, but it was actually really good. I think they did like 6 seasons. I watched that a long time ago, and then when I actually played Vaesen, I played Vaesen a handful of times. I was like, holy crap, that's the show. Like the whole show is really good. It's the show's set in America, but it is Vaesen. Like if you watch it, I think it's a pretty good representation of what Vaesen is. The site works a little bit differently in there, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. So pretty cool. Check it out if you're interested. So all the characters have the sight. They've all in their past experienced some sort of traumatic event that gave them the sight. And they've had some sort of interaction with Vaesen, but they don't fully understand what that is. So, and I don't know how the players felt, but in my mind, that was the question they were trying to get answered. So they go to Castle Gillenkreutz in Uppsala. They take a coach, and as they get closer to the destination, their characters realize, hey, we're all going to the same spot. So they arrive at the castle. It's this old, very large, 3-story, rundown castle that doesn't appear to be anybody home. They go to the front door, and they're greeted by this elderly man named Algot Frisk. And Algot explains to him that he has also been summoned to the castle, although it is his family obligation to serve in that capacity, and he's quite obviously like a butler. He brings them in. The inside of the castle is in pretty rough shape. It hasn't seen anybody living in it for decades, and so it's run down. But he has prepared one of the areas of the castle, and we'll get into this a little bit later, the library, and some rooms for them. So they retire to the library, and he gets some meals for them, some light meals. And there's really a moment for the characters, the players, to kind of interact with each other, introduce their characters a little bit, and kind of get the ball rolling for them. In the library, they look around, and there's books, and there's a big fireplace, and above the fireplace is a portrait of a woman, and it's a very old portrait, but they're able to make out that it is a portrait of a woman, and her name is Tine Rasmussen, I believe was her last name. And below that portrait, there's also another plaque that has a phrase on it that I believe Gorun reads, and this turns out to be something of a creed for a group of people that they later learn that's called the Society. They pass that evening pretty calmly, and they retire to their rooms. In the morning, they return to the library because, again, it's the most habitable place in the castle. And Algot brings them breakfast, and they decide to explore the castle a bit more, which they find that the place is massive, but the majority of it is any of the extra rooms and stuff are either boarded up, locked, or otherwise they can't get into them. And didn't really go into a lot of depth into why it was like that. But that plays out later in the game mechanically, which I'll get into towards maybe the end of the video here. One of the things they do find in the library as they start searching for more like information on this place is they find this ledger, and it is a roster of names. And in the names, one of the earliest names is this Tyne Rasmussen, and there's other names and more. What happens a lot of times is the names are crossed out with like a date of a death. And hold on one second. My cats are going literally nuts in this room because they don't get access to it very often. So for good reason, because they're a bunch of lunatics. They find that this ledger has all these names, and then next to the name is usually a date, and it goes back like a couple hundred years to each entry has, almost all the entries have a mode of means of death, and some of them are very mundane. But then they start reading ones that are like definitely not mundane, like killed by ghost or giant or troll, and the players are kind of perplexed by this. Some less than others. Chris is a cultist, has a little bit of knowledge on that, and they come across the word Vaesen, which he recognizes meaning like fairy tale, folklore name for different creatures that are told to basic kids and stuff to scare them into doing what their parents want them to do. So as they're reading through this, there's one name, like the last name is like furiously been scratched out, and they're just able to make out the name Lars. And as they're reading that off, Algot's coming in with some refreshment for him, and all of a sudden this ghostly apparition appears in the room, and it slams into Algot, who goes stiff and pale and just collapses to the floor, unresponsive. They see that the party is the three players are kind of struck by the first sight of this, and they have to like resist the fear that this causes, and some of them do, some of them don't. I think it was Gorun that didn't resist, and I think Hugo and Nikolas, they both did, I think, as I recall. But the ghost, as quickly as it appears, it disappears, and it goes howling off down the hallway and they hear it through the castle. They get Algot up on a couch to make him comfortable. He's unresponsive, very cold to the touch. So they start stroking the fireplace up and trying to figure out what they're going to do with him, when suddenly they hear a voice behind them, and it's a woman's voice asking, "Is he dead?" Because he looks dead, referencing Algot. And they turn and they see this woman here. And this woman here in my game is a woman named Elsa. And Elsa turns out to be a reporter for the local Uppsala Gazette. And she's come to do a story on the castle because it has rumors that it's haunted. And they question her a bit, find out that she didn't think anybody was in the castle, so she kind of let herself in when she found it unlocked and started exploring around. So Gorun, being an officer, former officer of the law in another city, explains to her that she's trespassing and that she needs to leave, and escorts her out. They do talk a bit with her, and they end up striking a deal with her if they can, because they don't know who owns this place. They were told by Algot that, as far as he knew, they were the new masters of the castle, and so they have no idea who summoned them here or anything like that. And Algot didn't know either. So they make a deal with Elsa that if she can get some information on the castle and who used to live here, that they'll let her, tour the castle or whatever and do her story. So she goes off to do that. There's a moment, so they're recovering from all of this, seeing the ghost and dealing with Elsa, and they start looking around for more information. However, they find a book about ghosts, and it's like some journal entry type stuff, and they realize that ghosts are like, they can be tied to a place or an object, or they can be here for, their spirits here to fulfill a purpose. They're just not sure which. This leads to them ended up doing like a whole search of the castle, which takes quite a while, and they don't really find anything new because, like I said, most of it's boarded up, which I'll explain at the end of the video how that works. So they end up going outside. One of the things that happens is in the foyer, as they're leading, after they lead Elsa out, they come back in, all the like plants like crash through the window and start growing into the fortress, coming after them. And they avoid being tied up in that mess, but they retreat back to the library, which seems to be the safest room in the castle. So they deal with that. They end up going outside. They start searching the garden area. And after an exhaustive search of the garden in the back, they find an old grave, and they end up digging that up. And as they're digging that up, the ghost appears again. And this time the entire party resists the fear that this causes. It's a little lesser the second time that they meet the ghost, but they were able to all resist it. So the ghost in turn blasts them with a curse, and they're hit with this wave of wind and cold, which knocks them back. And that actually really hurts them. They all the party members suffer three physical wounds, which gives them in the mechanics of the game gives them 3 conditions. So they're like 1 condition away from being physically broken, which is really bad. But what happens then is, and this is actually kind of neat because I didn't plan on this. Gorun actually, when they get back to their feet, the ghost is still there, like watching them. He's able to actually make a successful manipulation roll and starts communicating with the ghost. And he learns that they were killed. He was killed by 2 people. One was a man named Henrik, which is a name they saw on the list in the ledger. And in the ledger, he was also Henrik was also marked down that he had been in turn killed by a ghost, and they kind of deduced that probably was this ghost here. The ghost tells him that his name was Lars Berg, and that he was that these people here were his enemy, and they killed him. So, looking at the ghost in his apparitional form in the body they've dug up, they see that they're dressed the same for the most. They're literally dressed the same. And they find a really nice pocket watch, which also appears on the ghost, but it's also on the body. And Hugo picks that up, and the thing he notes is that it's like ice cold, like he's holding onto a chunk of ice. So from their little bit of research they had done previously, they know that ghosts can be tied to an object. So they are thinking maybe if they destroy this, it'll go away, but they don't want that to be their first option, so they hold on to it, and they kind of negotiate almost like a little bit of a truce, although they can tell that this ghost is like a pure evil entity. So they want to track down the second person that the ghost mentioned, which was a woman named Lene. Come here, cat. You guys are a menace. Was a woman named Lene, and they decide before they do anything, they want to track her down, because the ghost tells them, because they're like, well, maybe she's dead, like she was here a long time ago, and the ghost tells them, if she was dead, I would not be here. So they're like, oh yeah, okay, she's still alive. They just don't know where. So they kind of leave it at that. They return to the inside of the castle and formulate their plan. And later, by this time it's evening. This has taken most of the day because the castle grounds are quite extensive, and so is the garden area, which is just overrun with trees, shrubs, and brambles, and they're a complete mess. And all the party members are in rough shape physically. Like I said, they're one step away from being physically broken. So they return to the library, which has become kind of their sanctuary, and but they're not there very long before there's a knock at the door. They hear it ring through the echo through the halls of the castle. So they go and they find that Elsa has returned. And when they had first met her, it was earlier in the day. So she's had pretty much all day to go. And one of the things they realize about her personality, that she is very overeager. And as soon as she left the castle, she went right to work on doing research, because she wants this story about the castle. Part of the reason I had forgotten to mention is the castle has rumors of being haunted, but also there was a boy that went missing several weeks ago, and there's rumor that he was up here like on a kid's dare, going to the castle, and then he wasn't seen again. So, which also interests the party. So she returns to them, and she tells them that she has got some information, and that she has learned that the last known name connected to the castle was a woman named Linnea Elfclint. And that is the name that they got from the ghost and the ghost's name is Lars Berg. That is the name they got from him. So that kind of connects that for them. And Elsa tells them that she has further tracked down. There wasn't a lot of information. It was kind of actually odd that there wasn't a lot of information on who owned the castle previously, but that was a name that she came up with. But she has tracked that person down, that she's currently staying in the Uppsala Asylum. So they make the decision, the party members make the decision that they need to go visit her. And that's where we ended the session. A really good session. I've played Vaesen a handful of times. I've never run it, so we're picking up the rules. The rules are fairly simple, and everybody seemed to have a good time with the game. We're already talking about playing again, hopefully next week if schedules permit. I'm looking forward to continuing this. I really like horror games anyway. I'm a big fan of Call of Cthulhu, probably one of the best games I ever played. And Vaesen I like. The system's pretty simple. The artwork for the books is awesome. It was the first thing that actually drew me to the game. And I do enjoy the system. I plan to run, there's a bunch of published adventures for it, and that's predominantly what I'm going to run, although I have ideas to run my own stuff, and this whole session was my own stuff. I meant for it just to be kind of a quick introduction, and then as I worked on it, it blew up into a full session plus now. So, which is fine. I like doing that too, but part of the concept with running Vaesen and some other games I have in mind is a little less preparation than it takes for like my Castle Crusades games. You won't see miniatures and terrain in this game. I don't think that stuff works super well for horror games anyway. I think you're better off theater of the mind and imagining that horrible thing. What you don't see is sometimes worse than what you do see type thing if you follow horror. So I'm really excited to dive this. I like doing mystery games. I haven't done any in a while, so this was fun to work out and play around with. There's a lot of great role play at the table with the players too, so I have the right crew for that, which is awesome. As far as like mechanically, I know I mentioned before, in the castle, in the Free League games, a lot of times each game, they have some sort of rule for a like a stronghold. So in here, in Vaesen, the castle is your headquarters. So, and with that, you can develop it and get benefits from developing it. So you at the end of the game, you answer a bunch of questions as a group and you get points. And with enough points, you can buy development things. So you can buy like add like infirmaries and stables and all sorts of stuff to it. So all that boarded up rooms and such that's why. There was a lot of all that was all boarded up, because later on they can open that up and we'll do that in game narratively. Like they'll earn those things and develop the castle as they see fit and what works for them. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's a really cool mechanic. So hopefully this will be a regular occurrence. I'm looking forward to running several of the mysteries, and then maybe switch up and run some Dragonbane for a while this summer when my boy's back from college, and get some variety of games going. I hope everybody liked this. Sorry for the chaoticness. My cats are like freaking out in here. I have like a huge mess to pick up because they just upended a whole puzzle because they're nuts. But if you got any questions about Vaesen, I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm a huge fan of the game, so I'm glad to talk to anybody about it. And thanks for watching.